All right, welcome back. This is Professor Diffley, History 114, the Springfield History, Module 3, this lecture video 6. So we left off talking about Squanto, and I said we'll start with Massasoit. And now really, take a read of this in the lecture slides below. Make sure to read the required article I gave you on Blackboard, also part of the blog assignment on the first Thanksgiving. Massasoit was sort of the leader of a collection of tribes and Native American nations that he had sort of won over. He's the real power over here. They do make an alliance with him, but we're going to see it's not fully long-lasting. Why would the natives make alliance? Well, again, one of the interesting things, this is true, like if we talked about the Spanish conquistadors in full, how could Cortez and a small group of people conquer the mighty Aztec Empire, is they had help, right? Native peoples, looking back, it looks like the Europeans are taking advantage of the Native Americans, right, are using them, which to a degree is true, but the Native Americans also viewed the Europeans as something they could use, right? So here are these people with, new skills, new technology. Many groups saw by allying with them, they could take out their enemies and their challengers here in the Americas as well. So to at least at very first, there is this view as who is using who here, right? Is it a mutual use of each other? But that is part of it. They're lying, and they view the natives. Some of them view English goods and English weapons and English alliances as benefiting them. And you'll see Plymouth government. This is not a very open and free society at all. There's no idea of religious freedom at all, or no separation of church and state. You want to be in the government, have a say in the town. You have to be a pilgrim, right? You have to be up there, one of the separatists there. So this is a very, very different world. It's probably a different picture of what you're given there, right? So you're probably taught that the pilgrims came for religious freedom. Yeah, to a degree, in the sense of they wanted to practice their own religion. So when they said they were coming for religious freedom, it's not about the idea that they believed everybody should be able to practice their own religion, freedom of choice. No. They were here to set up this type of religious government and religious system that they wanted, and at the exclusion of everybody else. So it is interesting, to think that in the United States, which we might pride ourselves on religious freedom, is that we tie our founding myths back to a group who came for religious freedom, but not in the way it's actually discussed in the Constitution, the way it's understood today. They were here to exclude others and practice how they wanted, but not anybody else. And it's going to be interesting there. I mean, even it's another thing too. If you think about there's often this view of a New England Christmas and things like this. Christmas was outlawed in New England for a very long time under the Pilgrims and under some of the Puritans, right? They did not believe in those things. They did not celebrate those things. So a lot of what we view as, our traditions of things are not really there. They're myths in many ways, right? Heck, even Christmas trees and even, our modern traditions of Christmas. Think Charles Dickens, A Christmas Carol, all that sort of stuff was new to him. He writes it and says it's ancient, but it was really, in reality, people didn't start most of those traditions in the decades before. I mean, we're talking the 1800s. So again, and you'll see this really in the myth of the first Thanksgiving. What is what the historical record says, what the story you were probably told. This is part of just sort of the way history works in some ways. Is things get mythicized. Why do they do it? Right? Creates a national origin story. But again, make sure you read the articles, respond to the blog assignment. That's really really key to this idea of myth and reality. So this is what Plymouth's plantation would have looked like if anybody's ever been out there, right? This is the settlement. This is what people would have looked at. It's a recreation there. Again, this shows the English and the Wampanoag. Again, traders. Remember, I said that it wasn't just that when the English colonists came over, when they got to Plymouth, people had been decimated by disease before. How, again, by these explorers and traders who traded with them. Even, they weren't there to colonize, but those interactions can spread the disease. As you may have noticed, some viruses and things can be pretty contagious. It doesn't take a long time of exposure to get it. But here's early English settlements in New England. You get Plymouth. And then later you're going to get the Massachusetts colony. Obviously, they look much different than they do today. Connecticut colony. Notice Springfield, Massachusetts, right here. What colony is it part of? Connecticut originally. It's not going to be part of Massachusetts originally. It's going to be part of Connecticut. And then, what you're going to get is Plymouth and Massachusetts. Eventually, then you're going to get Rhode Island and New Haven. And these are going to be people that are going to get kicked out of the the religious communities, the religious colonies here in Northeast. New Haven, right? It is literally a new haven for them. Rhode Island, again, people leaving to create different visions there. So some of this other here, the Pequot War. Now, this is really important. So right from the beginning, you're going to have, again, you're going to have conflict with the Native Americans here. The Pequot War is going to be a turning point, right? It is really going to open up, it's going to change relations between the natives and the English. It's going to open up the ability for the English to settle more in this region. So it's going to have a massive, massive impact. So what causes this war? The cause of the war is really English colonization and expansion, right? They begin to, the Native Americans in general were somewhat willing to tolerate English and others until their numbers grew bigger and bigger and they start to encroach further and further upon their lands, and conflict emerges from there. The cause of war here is it's used as a really, again, the natives are upset about the English taking over. The natives, the Pequots kill some fur traders who had, been on their land, and more to it there. And so what you get is this war between the New England colonists and the Pequots. And this is going to be bloody, right? One of the things you're going to get is an attack or a massacre at Mystic, right? It depends on who you call, on whose side you're on, right? So it's called an attack by the English, massacre by the Pequot. And it's depicted here as essentially the English with native warriors on their side surround a Pequot settlement at what is today Mystic, Connecticut, and burn the village to the ground, killing all the men and women and children and elderly in there. And you can see, actually, if you look at the palisades, these are the defenses that go around the village. See, there's they don't line up perfectly. That's like sort of the gaps in there, right? It bottlenecks so that only so many people can come in at once, right? That's part of the defense there. It's making a small opening to get them out, but it is also a way to for the the people to get out. And what the English are going to do and the Indians is they're actually going to, anybody who tries to flee is cut down right away. You can see in this you have a line of English fighters and then Native Americans there. And this is how they destroy this. Now, why is this important? Well, one, after that, then the Pequot are more or less eradicated in many ways in this region. They are hunted down, the remaining bands. There's a final treaty where they have to leave. They have to give up their land. Some are sold into slavery, things like that. Now, historical significance to this. One, this opens up the Connecticut River Valley, right, to further settlement by the English. And this is really important because now the most powerful group in the area has been essentially wiped out, right? And so now you can move in there without fear of them. There's not as there are going to be other powerful tribes, but not nearly as you had with the Pequot. The other is the sheer brutality of this really changes relations between the English and the natives. The natives now see this as much more serious, much more of it as a fight for true survival here. There's going to be mistrust. I mean, heck, when the Pynchon and others come out to Springfield from what is Roxbury, Mass. today, Native American groups in this area knew about the fight and the massacre at Mystic and knew the names of some of the English who had fought there and who had led it. And some of them were with Pynchon, and some local groups refused to do business and refused to even talk until those who were responsible for the Pequot massacres and the Pequot War left, right? And so word is going to travel far and wide, the story of this, what we would call a massacre and the eradication of the Pequot. So this is going to set the tone for relations for many in the region here. And again, there's a video on it that really talks about, this is from the Massachusetts Pequot Museum. This is what a Pequot warrior would have looked like circa 1630. Again, this is destruction of Pequot Village, the fort at Mystic. there. So again, we're talking about the where the Puritans and the Pilgrims coming over. So this is where you start getting it. So what is Puritanism? Again, good videos on this. Take a read on this. Take a watch of those. The reading is really good on this as well. See again the video. Know their key characteristics, beliefs. I've talked about a bit. It is in the notes. It's in one of the readings, and it's in the video. So there you have it in 3 areas. You notice that I try to do that as much as possible. Give you some of this information in multiple formats, so you have different ways to go back at it. Right? You don't have to read that. You don't have to watch this whole thing. You can watch this now. Go watch the videos. That sort of thing. There. But they're going to come over, and so you're going to see in different ways, right? The vast majority, they're going to come to New England. Many are going to go to the West Indies, and some to the Chesapeake, coming from England. Now, what's interesting is you can see them all coming. So over here, and it really matches up in many ways to where they left in England, right? So you're going to have those who left Newbury, England, settle in. You guessed it, Newbury, Massachusetts. Those coming from different areas, they're going to set up over here, and that's also going to really explain some of the name usage here, right, of where they're going to end up. Many of them that come to the New England are going to be from East Anglia, against Suffolk, and these Hartford in England, and they're going to come over, and they're going to be well off. They're going to be highly skilled, highly educated. And so that is going to be part of the differences in the regions in the Americas between them. They're Calvinist. Again, you can see all this. It's in there. They did have this belief of predestination, of that, God has already decided. It's been decided that who is elect and who's damned, who's been saved and who will not be saved. This is determined before you're even born. Many of the Puritans believe this. At least that came over to Massachusetts in this era here. This, how do you know such a thing, right? So this part of the idea, good deeds don't really, that's not what's getting you there. It's already been predetermined. Part of this was, and this was true if you went to the early New England colonies, that if you never met anybody, you couldn't talk to anybody, but you could just walk around and look at the houses, you could tell who was considered the elect. It's those with the bigger houses. I'm not even kidding. Part of the argument was, part of the explanation was that, a just God would not reward those who are damned, right, with material good in this world, right? And so that must be their good fortune, their good economic, social status must be a reflection of them being elect, those souls elect to into heaven. Again, how do you divine in God's will, like I was just talking about there? And again, they really did believe profit and piety jumped together. They did not see a difference between it. Why? Because again, part of it was the belief that, if you were doing financially well, things like that, must be a sign of God's favor in that. And so, not everybody, if you are a Christian or, a pure Catholic or Protestant, not everybody believes that. Some may still, but that's up to you. But this is really how they viewed it. The elect, profit and piety jump together, right? They are the same thing. Or one could show the other. A pious person was also mostly profitable. The damned, so they were idle and immoral, and that was sort of God's, punishment. He's not going to reward those who are going to hell, sort of thing. Again, that's a close-up of the map there. This is the first book printed in the English mainland colonies. This is a psalm, so you see the religious influence here at first. And again, here's more for their moral liberty here. Again, the Puritans, they oppose the Anglican Church. They say that there's revival and persistence of popish practices. Again, that was the idea that too much of Catholicism remained. They had very negative views of English society that is becoming too commercialized, too materialistic, things like that. Interestingly, they're going to find that in a generation or two, once they hear that their kids are going over to that too, and so they never really escaped that there. But the goal was for John Winthrop is really, what are the Puritans coming here to do? City set upon a hill, right? A shining beacon back to Europe, back to England, about how to create this Bible republic in many ways, this Bible colony that was going to be a moral and religious symbol, right? That others will look up to and try to emulate there. And again, you can see his conceptions of freedom and natural liberty in the notes there. But that's really their goal, this idea of a city set upon a hill. Again, this is in notes, but let me just explain. Natural liberty is not a good thing. Natural liberty is absolute freedom to Winthrop, right? Think the Irish, the Native Americans, right? They have no shame. There's natural liberty is not something to be looked up upon. It's to be looked down. Moral liberty is the liberty to choose what is right. This is close to that idea of Christian liberty, right? You have the choice. That's your freedom of choice, is to either be a sinner or not a sinner. Natural liberty, it's associated with those who are bad, those who have the wrong religion, that sort of thing. So this is their view of things, and they're trying to teach, again, moral liberty, especially Winthrop here. But you can see that in the notes and in the some of the videos on Blackboard. All right, we'll finish there, and we'll move on to the next video in a second.